Hello, welcome back to Your Story, Our Lens. We are here with Aggy Vanderpool and Ellen Spieles, and we are going to be talking about the data centers and everything that is basically attached to that and what kind of things are going on that people have been really kind of questioning and wanting to know more about. So, where would you like to take this? Let's start with something simple and we'll work our way into as far as you want.
Okay. Well, I think that Ellen and I both kind of considered this as an opportunity to bring some information forward to the public that they may or may not be aware of. So it's kind of like we're kind of like on an education campaign
Which
at this
I
point.
absolutely love it.
So I approach this kind of the way that I would from a teacher standpoint, because that's what I do in my day job. And so what I started with was thinking about electricity and then how electricity translates into water consumption.
Okay.
So let me track that through for you for just a second, and then we'll relate it back to the Muskie Center, okay? So when you get your power bill every month, your power bill is based on what we call kilowatt hours of electricity. Watt is the unit that we use to measure electricity, and we use a lot of it, so a kilowatt is 1,000 of those, 1,000 watts. So your power bill is based on an amount of money per kilowatt hour. So that's what we deal with every month when the bill arrives.
Okay.
So there's actually a website called findenergy.com. It's a national website, and you can go in and look at electrical rates across the country. So people use this if they're making a decision, for instance, to move to a certain area. They want to know what's the utility rate, what's that going to look like. You can go find that at findenergy.com. So in Carter County, Ellen and I, our utility provider is Grayson Rural Electric. Here in Ashland, it's Kentucky Power, so slightly different providers. But Grayson Rural Electric basically runs about 17 cents per kilowatt hour of energy. And 91% of our electric cooperative are residential, because there's just not as much business there as there is obviously here in Boyd County. So the interesting thing about that, even at 17 cents per kilowatt hour, doesn't sound like a whole lot. But when you get those $600-700 a month power bills in the winter, where did this come from? How did it stack up? Well, it turns out that Grayson Rural Electric is charging rates that are 34% higher than Kentucky's average kilowatt per hour price. All right, that's in Grayson, Kentucky. And they're 34% higher on the monthly power bill than the national average.
That's wild.
Interesting.
That's before the data centers come in.
And that's to one of the poorest states in all of the country. So that make sense.
And honestly, Boyd County's not that much better. If you go look at what's happening with Boyd County, their average electricity rate is slightly lower. It's about 15 cents per kilowatt hour, less than national average, but it's still almost 28% higher than the rest of Kentucky in Boyd County. So we are sitting in an area where we are paying more than 30% for our electrical power. Right now, before any of these data centers come online, we're already paying more than 30% higher on our electric bill than the rest of Kentucky and most of the United States.
Now, on this part of this, we had a very interesting conversation with Mr. Cheney.
Right.
He had said that it is because some of the larger businesses that we used to have here are no longer here. So that charge kind of goes to the people around us, right?
Right.
And the larger the business that disappears, the more the charge will be towards us, the consumer that is also with that. So we had the train company, which used to be the world's largest, company there was, and that disappeared. And now we only have like maybe 60 people there that still work at the train company. You've got AK Steel's no longer here. You have all of the industrial park is pretty much barren compared to what it used to be. So all of this is still hitting the consumer like basically in the pockets. Now, if this data center does show up, does that mean that our rates will go down instead of up? or are we
Well,
saying that it's
here's the
going to go?
interesting thing about that. I mean, it's a valid question. It's a valid point. You're talking about economy of scale.
Right.
If you can spread that cost over more people, you would expect that the cost would go down, right? That would be the expectation. That has not been the case. And I can't, from that perspective, I can't quote specific numbers at you. You would think if it was a normal electrical user, if it was, for instance, an industrial company,
Right.
and that if the infrastructure was already there, that you would not see a climb in utility rates.
Right.
We're not talking about a normal situation now, okay? This is not normal. Let me give you an example. When the Muskie Data Center comes online, fully online by 2030, they're going to consume 1 gigawatts or more of electricity. So we've heard this being touted as a 1 gigawatt facility, right? Okay. A gigawatt is equal to 1 billion watts of electricity. We use kilowatts.
Yeah.
A gigawatt is 1 billion watts of electricity. So there's no possible way that the current infrastructure that we see along our roadsides with our power lines is going to manage that, which means they're going to have to be massive electrical grid upgrades to be able to handle this. We're going to have to generate tremendous
I see
amount of
what
more
you're saying.
power.
So
So
that's
the
gonna come
economy
out
of
of our
scale is not
pocket.
going to save us here.
Right.
It's not. I
So
mean,
now, are they going to be on the hook for that bill, or do you think we're going to be on the hook for that bill?
well, it's questionable with respect to what Kentucky has done. And we're still kind of trying to dig through the legislation on this because, again, the legislation has been moving its way through the Kentucky legislature for over a couple of years, and the general public has not had any information to work with. So the question is, how the data center to build is basically going to be a $14 billion project, but the infrastructure is going to be massive. So what's the price tag for that? We don't know. What we do know is that in 2025, the Kentucky legislature passed House Bill 775. You can go back and look at it. It basically was a sales and tax exemption to data centers in the state of Kentucky, used to attract data centers into the state. Lots of states have done this. Some states have tried to back up on it. They're getting threatened with lawsuits. Another example for later. But for now, in Kentucky, our House Bill 775 exempts data centers from sales and use taxes. So they're going to have to purchase the power, all right? But they're not going to have to pay any sales tax, and they're not going to have to pay any use tax
Yeah, because
for any equipment,
realistically,
for
what are they
cabling,
selling?
for
That's-
security.
you can't really tax
right,
data, right? Like
right.
that doesn't make any sense. So
So, the question is, in terms of how much of the bill they're going to foot, I personally would like to see a breakdown of that.
yeah, that's a great question.
I would, because
like to know.
And if I may, from the Kentucky Power website, I screenshotted it. It says what our customers need to know. Data centers pay costs tied to their service, including infrastructure built for them. All customers benefit from the grid costs paid by the data centers. If I only knew how to work this thing. All right. Because data centers bring steady demand and funding over time, the costs of running the system are shared among more customers, reducing pressure on everyone's bills. Your rates may still change. Sorry, guys. Based on fuel costs, grid upgrades, and broader energy market factors.
so there's a loophole. And a second loophole was House Bill 593. Now, this was not passed by the Kentucky legislature. 593 was introduced, and it would have required data centers to pay for electrical infrastructure upgrades, including a $75,000 fee to connect to the grid. That didn't pass.
Now, I'm curious, who stopped that?
It was stopped in the Senate, Kentucky Senate.
So you'd have to look at the Senate vote.
Passed the House. It was a House bill introduced in the House, passed in the House, stopped in the Senate.
Now,
So
is there an attempt to maybe do this again, or do you think it was stopped like fully where it cannot be brought back up, or do you think this is one of those things where it's like they just didn't have the right people on board to keep it going?
I think you can, if you've got the right legislators working on it, you can introduce legislation at any point in the legislative cycle, and it's going to take. It is going to take a growth from the ground up from the people saying this legislation needs to be in place.
All right. At this point, when we went there, we heard a lot of people say, "Is this possible to stop? Can we stop this?"
Yeah.
And the land apparently is already purchased. It's
Correct.
already done.
Yeah.
So it doesn't appear that there's any way to stop this. If people actually got together, could they actually put in some kind of like halting thing to maybe slow it down, or is it just completely out of the way and it's just going to roll on through?
Well, our understanding, and you have to remember, we're not lawyers,
Right. It's just, I'm just asking.
Our understanding is that Ashland was able to get a pause, a moratorium. And multiple communities across the United States are trying to go that route right now. They were able to get that because apparently there was some sort of potential zoning violation for the data center they were proposing there. As a matter of fact, I think Nashville is fighting that right now because there's a proposed data center that they want to build in the parking lot of the Nashville Zoo in Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah, that's been a fun story. But anyway, as long as there are questions about zoning, it's possible to get a pause. Now, in this situation in Boyd County, they were very smart about what they did. They purchased land in an area already zoned for industrial use, an industrial park. So I'm not sure that the zoning ordinances are going to protect us here.
On that part, I will play kind of a devil's advocate on this, just because I know that the stuff that they were doing on that spot where they have purchased was way worse than what this was when it comes to runoff, things that were coming out of that smelter was just awful.
Yes.
It was awful. So as far as that goes, we're talking about significantly less lethal than that. So that's, I guess if you want to say something, that's something beneficial, I guess you could say, but
it's possible.
It's like,
the question is, with all the tax loopholes, at what point will benefits come back to the community? That's
another thing, because you never know what the taxes are even going to begin with. So it's kind of a...
Are you going to be of any benefit to the community at all?
I don't know.
Where is, if you're going to come in and be a member of the community, be present in the community, if you're going to use resources, be it water, be it electricity, that may make it more expensive or difficult for other members of the community. If you're going to potentially impact the health of the community, I think it's reasonable to ask, what benefit is there?
Yeah, it's more than reasonable. I think that in the world we live right now, there used to be an idea that we were always kind of checking on the people by doing little laws that kind of helped. Like if you were a new food, product, you were making a box of cereal, you needed to list all the things that are going to be harmful to anybody that might ingest this.
Correct.
The same thing should apply to something like this. And the fact that we don't know what these things are going to be or harmful wise kind of says a lot. That kind of makes me a little nervous just right there. That was the big one for me, that kind of...
Well, let's go back to our elected officials for just a second. We have 5 county judge executives from this 5-county area that are going to be impacted that signed these NDAs. And maybe the best analogy that I can give you is that basically what they did was they bought a house sight unseen.
Right.
Okay? Now, if you're going to buy a house, you would think that before you take out the mortgage and you sign the contract and you borrow the money and make your down payment, that you would want to see the house. And instead, you pull up to the house and you find that there are all these problems with this house and you don't have any recourse because the contract is signed without getting sued. And essentially, that is what TerraWolf has done in other situations. When a community or a township that in areas where they are building other data centers has backed up and said, whoa, wait a minute. After the NDAs were already signed, the first thing that happened is TerraWolf has threatened lawsuits.
So again, I'll play devil's advocate one more time, just because I think it needs to be addressed.
Sure.
On the NDA, we're a very small business right here. and we wanted to purchase something simple, and it was bought out from underneath us just as fast as we could blink.
Right.
When it comes to business, you know, being able to keep what you're about to do kind of close to the chest is very important, because
Right.
you know, you'll go from like we was talking about earlier, you'll go from a piece of property, you know, where I guess it was said that it was 23,000 an acre or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Had they not had signed that NDA, that could have been all the way up to 123,000 an acre or more. Like, the moment that somebody knows it's a big giant company, they're like, oh, they can pay for this, and they're gonna tax them super hardcore.
Right.
So I can understand the NDA on some of the parts of it. Now, again, we'll play devil's advocate on the other side now, because you know, as a judge, you have a certain you're
Fiduciary
paid, right?
responsibility.
There you go, perfect word. You have a job that you have to do, a fiduciary. Say that again one more time.
A fiduciary responsibility.
Responsibility, I love it. That they have to do for their constituents, the people
Correct.
that put them into office. Like, you are supposed to help us above anything else. Like, that means any company that's coming in, you should take these people and work with them first before you take somebody that's just coming in. And that's the part that kind of bugs me the most. Now, I've heard stories that you're not allowed to sign an NDA when it comes to being a judge's advocate, like, for this. That kind of makes me wonder if that's true or not, because I don't know, because I've heard a lot of people say that. So I've seen a lot of
that's a question
comments.
for a lawyer.
Right.
Yes,
I'm going to
and-
have to find out on that one.
There
'cause I
are
don't
some
know.
legalities in question here. I think there's some questionable legalities.
Because the other day we met at a fiscal court meeting.
Right.
They had a financial responsibility to the community. So they're telling everybody, well, we made this deal and it's going to bring these jobs and this, that, and the other thing. But they're not discussing the cost and what it cost people in property values, what's going to happen to our water, what's going to happen to our electrical bills, what's going to happen to our health and well-being when we talk about the noise pollution, the light pollution, the air pollution. They're not, because they're saying to everyone, I don't know, I didn't know. That means you could not have looked at the financial impact of the deal itself and made a decision that would benefit the community. If every answer is I don't know, and I have asked several things that just pop into my mind, I have asked them out publicly, and to see their faces and the shock on their faces when people ask these questions. I mean, I sat at home and did internet searches, and the stuff I found it gives me migraines.
So on most of the stuff, I will say it this way: on most of the stuff that people brought up during that meeting, I was blown away by. Like, some of the questions I would not have thought to ask any of those. Like, I mean, there was so many good ones. I was like, man, these are great questions.
A lot of good questions.
I want to say that for their benefit, I don't think they would have thought those questions up as well. And
that's why the meeting was sprung on everyone, because once you start looking into it, then you start saying, well, what's going to happen? Then you start asking questions.
Right.
And that's the most important thing. You can be as personally upset as you want to about all this. It's time to start asking the hard questions and get everybody on record with their answers, because the public has a right to know.
Yes. 100%.
The community and the people who have brought their lives here and intend to stay here,
100%.
raise their kids here.
Yeah.
You know, there's some farms that are sitting right around this that they're doing farming.
Yeah.
Those people deserve an answer. And all we got was, I don't know. And my question has been, so now that the announcement's been made, and by the way, like I said, I watched the video, 2 of them raised their hand that they signed an NDA. So does that mean the other folks on the stage didn't? And I don't know who was who, because they didn't really so much introduce themselves. But
yeah, and I didn't hear them.
My
speak
question
or
is
anything.
that NDA still in effect in any way to where they can't help their constituents now that it's been announced? Or they can't...
That's a fair question.
provide details of how things rolled out and how they went down and who was responsible because they are still falling under the NDA. We don't know.
Well, I know that they are going to be having more meetings, and there is going to be more information brought forward coming along. But I think TeraWolf needed to be there at that meeting. Like at least somebody, a representative, something needed to be there at that meeting.
Right.
AEP needed to be at that meeting. Like,
The
I mean,
sewer
that's
treatment
this
people
needed to be at that meeting, right? So, like, these are the main questions. What is the one that's where they the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. They needed to be at that meeting. At least somebody from one of those. That was a big one. Those are the main ones that I think should have been there. And those are the main people that should have been sitting at that seat. At least having prepared statements from each of them would have been a great step forward.
Would have been. Right.
So I didn't see any of that. So that kind of makes me wonder if the next meeting might have those prepared or if there might be something at least. I am going to be trying to reaching out to all of these places to see if they'll at least comment or work with us and maybe even come in and have a meeting or sit down.
Well, the interesting thing is going to be the last meeting, the last town meeting was 2 hours.
Right.
It went 3 hours.
Yeah.
More than 50% of the people that signed up to ask questions or speak did not get an opportunity to.
I mean, that was a big meeting. I mean, that was a lot of people. So for their defense,
well,
that is massive.
So next it's going to be, I think you said at the high school.
It's
going to be the same 2 hours.
Boyd County High School.
Hopefully it's going to be bigger and the turnout is going to be bigger. It's kind of difficult when everything's televised or live streamed.
Yeah.
But are they even going to give people an opportunity to speak, or are we just going to be given a bunch of information? We don't even know what's going to happen in 2 hours.
So that's why I love, like, we are an open business. We literally can have open conversations about anything we want to.
Right.
And I love the fact that, you have new journalism coming out every day that's based on just sheer will of wanting to talk about these conversations. I don't have anybody lording over me telling me what I can or cannot talk about, right? So that's a good thing. And it can be a bad thing too, because if I don't use that correctly, that could be really bad, So we like to get everybody's opinion of things, but in a way that's just informative, not taking a side of either thing. So in what we've learned so far, we have a town that's wanting business. They want any kind of business to come into this town because we need the revenue to start generating in this town to wake it back up. They're saying 300 to 500 jobs for the construction part, which is what I've heard for the construction part. Inside of the facility itself is basically an AI facility, so most of it's probably going to be ran by AI itself. So I won't probably say there wouldn't even be maybe 100 jobs inside of there, and that's if we're lucky. So we know that there's not going to be much inside of the job, but there still might be stuff outside of it because I would imagine they're going to try to expand, right? So you're going to need construction sites probably going to stay on for quite a few years. You're going to have guards, I would imagine. There's probably going to be some kind of custodian services, right? So I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of jobs that come from that. And they're not going to be cheap jobs. That's going to be very lucrative as far as that goes for the people who do get them. My big concern is whether or not they're going to be from this area. Because that sometimes happens where a company will come in and then they'll hire from outside of this area just to get a lower rate or to
Well, the only example that I can give you, and this comes straight from TeraWolf's website, okay? They have multiple data centers. This, of course, is the largest one.
Right.
Some of their data centers are regular-sized data centers. Others are hyperscale. They are also currently...
Now, can you tell me the difference between the hyperscale and the...
It's about at 400 megawatts capacity. That's about where they draw the line between just a general standard data center and a hyperscale data center. So it's based on electrical usage. That's what it's based on. So about 400 megawatts. We're talking a gigawatt for this, so the scale is
massive,
tremendous. Yeah. But at any rate, TeraWolf is currently under construction and development with a slightly smaller data scale. It's not hyperscale. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. This one is a hyperscale. It's out in Hawesville, Kentucky. I'm not sure where Hawesville is. It's Hawesville. On their website, it's listed as the Justified Data Center. That's what they've named it, Justified. It's an old aluminum smelter site.
See, they keep using these smelter sites, which
They do. They're
just
coming
kind of,
in and using old industrial sites. You know, no argument there
yeah, it's
about
kind of
putting
smart,
that
but it's
infrastructure
kind of like
back to work.
sneaky
Yeah,
a little
not a
bit.
problem. But this is a small. It's still hyperscale. It's targeted at 480 megawatts. It's supposed to be online by 2027. So they're in construction now. But this was the hiring situation. If you drill into this a little bit, all of these construction projects for all of their data centers are going out on bids nationally to construction companies. So this construction company that is actually working on this site in Hawesville, Kentucky, is called Fluor Corporation, FLUOR Corporation, centered in Texas. And they have a construction hub in Greenville, South Carolina. Now, there's no information at all about how many are local versus how many are non-local workers, but if all of their business operations and their materials operations are outside of the state of Kentucky, you would expect
that's the people
that they're
going to
bring
to
those
come
people
in, right?
in from outside the state of Kentucky.
Right.
So if this is a national bid system, there's no guarantee
Right.
that those construction jobs are going to be local unions and local workers.
And
There's
that
just
should
no
have been
guarantee.
in the contract when they wrote it up to do the deal for sure. 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that's one of the questions I would love to be able to look at that contract just to at least see what
This
people
is
sign.
what
But
I don't have any, I guess, real argument with NDAs. I understand their purpose. What I have concerns about is that we have a group of elected officials who were put into those offices based on public trust. People elected them to do the job, to represent us, and to do the best they could, attract industry to the area, bring jobs to the area. So the public faith was placed in these individuals. There is no reason that they shouldn't have asked these questions. Or at the very least, before they signed an NDA, said, let's talk to some other people around the country. The last question that I asked at that meeting in Boyd County was, have any of you visited a hyperscale center?
right.
What were your impressions? Have you been
Cheney
on
was
site?
asked that
None
at
of
Fiscal.
them were
At
So,
Fiscal
so at
report.
this, yeah,
have you called these communities and talked to people? Have you talked to your counterparts?
Yeah.
Let's talk to other judge executives. Let's talk to other city council members in areas where hyperscale systems have been built. And before we sign the NDA, should we not do a little troubleshooting?
That would be a big thing.
It's
Now, for the record,
right.
Mr. Cheney did say afterwards that he would absolutely go and do a full
Site
deep
visit.
dive site visit.
Yeah.
He wants to know exactly which one's comparable. Like
Right.
he definitely stood up and was actually putting his best foot forward when it comes to this. I will give him props on that, and that was very awesome that you had given him even props as well while you were talking. That
Yeah.
was that was
Yeah.
big of you. I think that it needs to be said on both sides, like whether somebody's doing something good, whether somebody's
Right.
doing something bad.
Right.
And I think that it's awesome to put that out there that way. Like, you know, if you do something good, even if you did something bad, to at least
Yes.
acknowledge the fact that you're doing something good to try to fix that problem. Now, whether or not this goes forward from any of the other people, I have no idea, because the only two
Right.
people that spoke was the
Green Up,
Right.
Bobby Hall,
Bobby Hall
Bobby
and
Hall.
and Mr.
Yeah.
Cheney. Now, to be fair, the people at that meeting, we come there for answers, and all we get is rah, 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 rah. Like you just get people yelling, and it's like
I know.
we're sitting here trying to listen to hear what they're going to say, and you can't
Right.
even get a word in.
Right.
And that was bad. So I'd like to be able to at least hear what they have to say on some of that.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I just
I think what you were seeing at that meeting was a gut response
yeah, it's frustration.
with no
Yeah.
time to
100%.
digest the announcement that was
Frustration.
made.
Yeah.
I think people were scrambling to understand
Yep.
what does that mean to them. I do not know who was in that room.
Yeah.
there very well could have been a lot of people living right on the industrial
Mm-hmm.
that the moment this announcement was made, their property became worthless.
Now, and that's another thing. So, okay, so I have heard people say that their property would become worthless. You know, I think that might actually go the opposite way, because now the reason why I'm saying that is because what happens when they want to expand? What happens when they want to put something bigger onto that? Their property values might actually triple or quadruple, because they're going to have to purchase that land, right?
Well,
so if you think of it that way, that's possible.
And that's a major if.
Yeah, it's a big
because
if.
we haven't seen any of the things.
Right.
However, when you move out to the country, there's a certain expectation of peace, quiet,
100%.
wildlife,
Right.
and I've driven down the industrial. There are some very nice homes there, but when you look at these data centers, and we don't even know what a hyperscale is going to look like in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But on the books for public consumption, there are already study after study, complaint after complaint, noise, light pollution, and no one is going to want. If you've watched videos of these large scale, not hyperscale, but large
Just the large
scale.
ones. Yeah.
The high-pitched whine that comes from these is extraordinary. Like, I watched a video from, I want to say it was Virginia. They had just built a deck on their house. They won't even go out on it anymore.
Yeah, they were saying something like 165 decibels or something like that.
I can't tell you, because here's another thing. Like, there's ranges for all this, and you really it takes so many hours to deep dive through the summaries and some of the studies, let alone get down into the nitty gritty and all the numbers. And numbers aren't my thing. But when you're talking about the enjoyment, and no one's going to want to buy that property.
Well,
And if they come in through eminent domain, are they going to get it what it's worth? We don't have any of these
Right.
answers, and we don't know. We can speculate till the cows come home. Nobody knows. So at that meeting, you were dealing with fear, outright fear
100%.
of what was
I agree,
coming.
because the second meeting, like for the fiduciaries side of it, everybody was super nice. There was no yelling, there was no screaming. It was completely civilized. Everybody came up, asked their questions. It was night and day from those two meetings.
It was.
But on what we were talking about with the topics of the noise pollution, there's people that live next to airports. There's people that live next to train stations.
Right.
Those get monumentally higher than what this thing is going to get. So I'm curious if that's actually going to really take their property values down.
They
And
will if they don't have water and their electric bills are through the roof and the noise is off the chains and the light lights up the sky. My mom had a farm in Pennsylvania, and 1 mile as the crow flies over a hill, they put some sort of substation. That thing was so noisy, you couldn't take a walk in the woods and hear one animal. The light pollution at night that came off of that lit up the sky like it was daylight. There was a farm sitting right next to it. They used to have livestock. I don't know if they still do. There's a lot of things to consider.
Yeah.
But for me, the thing that most needs to be discussed is, what can these people expect? Because there's a lot of health issues surrounding these data centers.
And again, that goes back to, and like I said, I'm only playing devil's advocate here. I'm not, and it feels bad because I don't want to have to be the person talking for these people, because that is not my job. The smelter that was there had to be way worse as far as some of that goes. And they seem to be okay, and they're still there, and that's a good sign. So I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be, is it end of the world disastrous, or is it just going to be like, okay, it's bad at the beginning, but it's something we could get adjusted to?
Well, I think Aggie has some information on AI, and I think too. So when they present the information to us, the public, they tell us what they want us to know.
Right.
Okay, so they're going to say, for example, we're going to have 300 jobs at this data center. A quick internet search will tell you otherwise.
Yeah, that it's probably,
okay.
It's always somewhere in the middle is what I always try to find anyway.
On average, it's not much. It's 50 jobs.
Okay.
On average.
Yeah.
The other thing is, as AI and as these plants become more efficient, Those people might not even have a job.
That's facts.
Then you compound that with, you're telling me you're creating 300 jobs. You're telling me maybe 50 permanent or 300 jobs, I'm sorry, construction jobs, and then 300 jobs at the site. Okay,
Right.
that's what you're telling me. Now, start looking into how many jobs and job opportunities are being lost to AI, period.
That's innumerable, to be honest. I mean, some of the things that's going to take over is just going to be ridiculous.
So when you say to me, is it going to be the end of the world that we build this data center? It could be for some young people, because I
very true.
think I heard Anderson Cooper say that 1/3 of the entry-level jobs will disappear.
It's very true.
The
job that I'm doing right now has changed so drastically. I mean, it's a night and day service. You know, when I first started doing photography, you had to be a good photographer. You know, like, you know, everything was film, and you had to make sure that your shots counted. When you'd get into a dark room and you'd be like, oh, this came out crappy, and you didn't get that second shot chance, you know. Now it's like you have automatic shots that are taking hundreds of pictures within a second. And that's, you know, you have all of these extra shots from the same thing. When we have a client come in and we do headshots, I probably typically take anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 pictures when they're here for a couple hours. And that's insane. You know, I don't miss a second. So the shot's going to be amazing no matter what. It's going to evolve and it's going to advance. Now, you have some people who are still film buffs and they're like, I only shoot on film. And I'm like, that's fair, but trying to compete with me while I'm using this and you're doing this, it's not really that fair. Look at today's day and age, everyone's using ChatGPT. I mean, everybody. And if you're not, it's like you're so far behind compared to somebody who is. It's scary. This person's using ChatGPT. He's got a whole team. She's got a whole team. That's a massive advantage from somebody who doesn't. That's just like back in the day when cell phones first came out. You know, you had to go to pay phones and different stuff like that. Everything's going to evolve. Tech is always going to evolve. So for those people that say that it's just another evolution of tech, what do you say to those?
There are a lot of people that don't want that evolution. And I think if we did an educational campaign instead, saying how you can reduce your footprint, I think a lot of people would take you up on it. Like my son and I had a conversation about DuckDuckGo. I don't even understand. As you can see, I barely know how to work this thing. So he put DuckDuckGo on my phone, where I used to have Google. Google tracked all my searches.
Right.
And it was part of AI, because you could use your voice.
Right.
DuckDuckGo, you have to type it all in.
Right.
Your search is not retained.
Right.
If you want to watch a YouTube video, there's no advertising. There's no tracking me for marketing reasons.
Right.
So, you know, to me, as just wanting to be a private person and not want all this technology in my life, I'm kind of like anti-technology. I just want to go back to simpler times.
Yeah.
But it's some of these young people that are coming up to me and saying, well, if you do this, you know, you can reduce things I didn't realize.
Right.
I've never used the cloud, but I use other things. I've heard of young people selling off all of their crypto, Bitcoin, and all of that stuff because they say it no longer aligns with their values. So if the young people are saying, hey, wait a minute. And the other part of this argument is everyone's talking about AI as far as running ChatGPT and all this other stuff. But what about surveillance and flock cameras and all this other stuff I'm starting to hear about?
So with that, I'm going to say that we are...
Different subject.
The only reason I'm going to say this is because I'm really down the rabbit hole on a lot of this stuff. Mass surveillance has been here since the 60s. I mean, I'm being real with you. It's probably even before the 60s. And what we know of as mass surveillance only came out because of one man, which is Mr. Snowden. It had been going on for a long time. It's going to happen. And it's always going to happen. Now, the question begs if it's going to be the U.S. that's doing the surveillance or if it's going to be another country that's doing the surveillance. And that's the part that kind of gets weird because now we're past the point of being able to stop that part. You can go to we could go, every single person in the U.S. could go to Congress right now and say, we want to stop this. and we're not going to be able to stop this because you got military industrial complex that has the ability. You've got people who are literally lining up to give away their freedom of like being anonymous. Like you got people who sign up for these random things that just puts the. Here's another little part that goes with that. I'm sorry to like go on this little.
Me. You're fine.
I'm going on this weird little tangent. Did you know that they have data centers that go behind your houses? There's actually companies that will actually pay you to put a device behind your home. Mm-hmm. They'll pay for your electricity bill. They will pay for the device itself, the installation itself, and they'll give you $1,000 a month. And it's a data center that stays on your home. This is happening. One way or another, these people are going to get this data center out there. And they said that these types of data centers are actually more efficient because it's literally on each individual person's already constructed home. So all of the infrastructure is still there. You're not doing any kind of upgrading or anything like that. And you'll actually get more usage out of it. And you get $1,000 at the end of the month. So, and your electricity bill is paid. Why did we not go this route? That's the kind of wondering that I'm wanting to know. Why are we allowing this big giant
question.
Business that's going to come in that's going to kind of take away from that option?
You just blew my mind.
Right. So these are things that people need to like know exist. But for the record, for what we're talking about, for mass surveillance, every phone, doesn't matter if your phone is on or off, can hear you. You have abilities like, hey Siri, tell me a joke.
Why does Orion's belt only have 3 stars? Well, some of the reviews say it's just a waste of space.
Not really worth whatever you're paying for Siri.
So the reason why I'm saying that is that
it was a bad one.
This is always listening. But now for the record, this is only listening for that simple command phrase of the hey, and then when you say her name, she activates. That is one of the things that works. But there's other programs that do the same thing that aren't so nice. And you're going to hear a lot of that coming out soon. That's going to be just massive. And, if this is the case that we have mass surveillance, why isn't anything really getting solved? Why are we not having really massive fixes?
Thank you.
These are the big parts that I want to know about. So so we have all of these amazing technologies to be able to stop all of this like main stuff that's going on, but you're not seeing a lot of implementation on it. So
we're not seeing results.
Yeah. So why are we having it if it's not going to work? So that's kind of my thing with that. But for the record, I'm just stating that we're past the point of stopping these parts, right?
Right.
It's out there. You're not going to be able to stop that part. But you can do a lot to mitigate some of the damages that goes with that. Now, as far as DuckDuckGo is concerned, like awesome service. I think that it works really well. There's a couple other ones. There's a Lion. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a couple more other service providers out there. But we have a term that's called Googling something. Mm-hmm. This company is so big and so massive that it has its own coin of term. Mm-hmm. So when you say, I want you to look something up, the word is, I want you to Google it. So that's the reason why most people will still stick to Google, no matter how many, they can tell you that, we just came up with this new one. It gives you $100 every time you use it. It might actually still be just right there with Google because that's how, it's so famous to say I Googled it, like that. Just people know it as that. Like it's wild. Right. So these things are always going to happen. You're always going to have like this moment of like tech versus it going up. So what do we do now from here?
I'd like to, if I could for just a minute, address some of that from the perspective of an educator.
Okay.
As I know
I love this part. This is the part where I'm gonna love this because this is great.
I teach high school science.
Yeah.
So okay. So I want to go back to 2 terms that I used in the Boyd County meeting: responsible and sustainable. Mm-hmm. Okay. We know that technology is here. We know that it's not going anywhere, and in many ways, it has made massive improvements in our life. I would be continuously lost were it not for Google Maps. Mm-hmm. I'll just say.
Same.
I drive with the blue arrow, okay? So I get that and I understand that. But there are dangers in allowing artificial intelligence to think for us.
100%.
Dangers here.
100%.
And if we learned nothing else, that was the cautionary tale that we learned from the COVID years in education.
100%.
Okay. And then, of course, they're talking about the potential for AI to replace teachers in the classroom. Okay. So here's what we understand about that. Young people who are going through a lot of emotional growth and development, especially in the adolescent years, that are so addicted to screen time, so addicted to their devices, are at real risk and at real danger. We already have one, I think, concrete example on the books now of a young person who literally committed suicide under the influence of a chat bot. Okay.
100%.
I mean, and there may be more.
Right.
I'm just aware of the one, but there may be more. So that's an extreme example. The day-to-day example is that students are turning to these generative AI programs to think for them, to write for them, without taking time to think for themselves, organize their thoughts, analyze information, and even attempt to answer questions. It's the first step is to immediately look at the AI overview or to immediately look at, the AI answers. I had students who were literally screenshotting exam questions and screenshotting an exam question from their Chromebook in the classroom during a test, sending that to their Apple Watches, running the question through an AI program on the Apple Watch to get the answer, and then answering the test. I didn't realize until this year that I had to tell them they had to take their watches off to sit for an exam. So here's the thing. It's so easy. It's deceptively easy. And we stop thinking for ourselves.
Right.
So for instance, the series of questions that I asked at the meeting of Boyd County, one of the comments that rolled up was she's using ChatGPT to write her questions. No.
And that's where I was just about to go with that. Now, I was just about to go with that. Now, some of the students that you have in there, is it possible that they're just getting that intelligent, that some of these things that they're putting out there are just really good answers? Are we going to look at them and be like, oh, you did that with ChatGPT, we know it? Like,
there are certain programs that you can run it through to kind of scan for suggestive language that would suggest that it's AI. They do this at secondary level, at university levels. They look for, obviously they're checking for plagiarism, right? So there's programs that can do that for you. But that's higher ed, but at secondary level with high school students, one of the things that we've seen after the COVID years, students who came through those years of trying to do online instruction only, is that their writing skills are really substandard. They can't take, like we've had to do for this meeting, they can't take a body of information, multiple reports, multiple sources, and synthesize that into something cohesive to even write a paragraph. They don't know how to do that. And that's a real concern.
that is. That's a shame on a lot of levels. Now, there's a part that goes with that I have to interject on this, is when I have times where I'll write something and she'll ask me if I've used ChatGPT, and I'm like, no. And she's like, well, that's pretty good. So there's moments when, it can be the most guiding thing that helps us on things. And then when sometimes I'll put it in there and it'll be like this amazing thing where I'm like, oh, this is awesome. That was way better than what I would have put out there. Or it's just right along the lines of it. When you use it, it could be just like any other tool. So like my thought process with this goes, the people who started out in school, you're a good student when you can basically recite the things that we teach you. So you're parroting the things that we teach you. So the thinking for yourself part, and the only reason I'm going to say this is because I'm very low on the autistic scale. Okay. When I speak, I'm speaking out. I don't have like a frame of reference to be able to stop myself from saying certain things. So I'm just going to say this in a weird way. when you go on any kind of like learning facility, okay,
Right.
they want you to understand the scripts that you're going to write. You're going to do it the way that they tell you to do it. If you don't do it in any kind of other way,
Right.
you're wrong, and they're going to take away from the credits of this. You have to do it in this perfect structure. Where I don't learn that way, like it hurt me very much.
Right.
Now, as an adult, I can do anything I want to do, and
Sure.
I'm very capable when it comes to doing stuff.
Right.
But I just have to do it in a different way than most people, and it's very weird. So if we're looking at this at the beginning and we're saying that you're only good at something if you do it in this context,
Right.
then when a person does it in a different context, they get upset. It kind of feels a little like cheating.
Well, that's a failure in some ways of our part of our educational system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're talking about prescribed learning, where
Right,
things have to
prescribed
be very
learning, right.
prescribed. Okay,
Yeah.
The most effective learning is when teachers are asking how and why questions instead of what questions.
Like the creative part of it,
That's
where you
right.
have to figure it out on
and
your own.
problem solving,
Right.
critical thinking,
That's the big part.
and those are pieces that we're losing to AI.
But don't you think that AI might be gaining something as far as creativity, like on
You
another
have to be
side of the
able
scale?
to formulate the prompt.
It's a fair
And
point.
if you
That's a fair
can't
point.
think well enough to formulate a prompt
Mm-hmm.
to get where you want to be, you're going to be left with only what A is going to provide for you. Not only that, how well can you evaluate what A is providing for you in terms of whether or not it's true,
Yeah.
it's realistic, it's feasible?
That's the one that scares me the most.
You can't.
Because
You can't
nobody's
do
double
that.
checking their
You're
sources
not
or any of that.
critically thinking about, well, now,
that's a big
is
one.
that truly feasible?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we need to be with education. I'm not saying there are not some wonderful tools.
Mm-hmm.
There are some wonderful tools out there.
Yeah.
They're great creative, they're great teaching tools.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hand the whole of education to artificial intelligence,
That's this. Okay, I see what
But
you're
there's
saying.
think
also-
about what you're losing.
There's also
big
the
one.
danger that you could be being told what to think,
Mm-hmm.
that relevant material has been left out, that opposing viewpoints have left out.
Yeah.
So her saying, yes, you have to be able to think creatively to ask the prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Those skill sets, and let's face it, the more of this AI and technology that gets thrown at us, the faster things come at us. We just take that and move on and move on. We don't investigate it.
Right.
Here's another concern that we have, that one of the things that we've seen with AI, with students coming through elementary grades, they are losing the ability to memorize because it's so easy to just
Because
Google
you don't
it.
have to.
We're going to Google it,
Yeah.
right?
See?
We're going to Google it.
Tough
It's
term.
so
Yeah.
easy. So now we have students who don't even memorize multiplication tables.
Wow.
Now, do you have to memorize everything? No, we're not saying you have to memorize anything. I teach chemistry. I don't make kids memorize the periodic table. In olden days they did. I don't make them do that.
Where were you when
But-
I was
I
in
know,
school?
right? That's what I was thinking.
Right. So, but we get into a lot of questions about how and why the periodic table is put together the way it is. I'm not so worried about you knowing what's atomic number 10 and 11. I'm a lot more interested in you understanding why they're in separate columns on that periodic table. Okay. So that's an example, but students are losing the ability to memorize. Part of it is lost ability to focus because their attention spans have been trained to the TikTok video,
1
which is
minute.
like 1 to 3
1
minutes.
minute attention spans.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
And that is not going to serve them as adults. That's not going to serve them well in the workforce. I've tried to explain to students that throughout your professional life, whatever it may be, trades or academia, you are going to have to continuously go through training. You're going to have to sit through workshops. You're going to have to sit through certifications. You're going to have to train your brain to focus on something for more than 1 to 3 minutes.
I'm going to say yes, 100%. But there's also caveats to that, because there is a lot of teachers that say like, oh, listen, Jimmy, you're cutting up in class a little too much. You know, they're not going to pay you to make jokes. And then these people go on to be comedians. Or
agree.
You'll get people
Agreed.
that's like, oh, I see you doodling in your book. You're not going to be paid to be doing those doodles. They become famous artists that are just nonstop, right? There's a guy who doodled his house, and he's like the most amazing doodler I've ever seen.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, these are like, you know, I guess you could say outliers that are just
It is. It becomes a balance
Right.
of like directing that creative energy into constructive things. You know, that are going to be healthy and going to be good for that kid.
But you're also you're talking about like one person that may go off and succeed. We're talking about society as a whole.
But there's millions of comedians. There's millions of artists. There's millions of like, I mean, and these are people that when they were in school were told that they weren't going to be any of these things. And they were also told, you can't use a calculator when you go outside of here. You're going to have to learn this stuff. And it's like, we all have a calculator literally attached to us. So it's like,
but it's a good skill.
It is. I'm not taking away from the skill. I'm just saying that, you know, us telling them this isn't necessarily true to that. You know, the world's going to change so drastically around us that, I mean.
And we're trying to keep up too.
Right. And that's the big part. That's what I want to know. I want to know, are we just kind of hyper fixating on this new technology that's coming out? Or are we actually sure that this is really going to be devastating to things? Like, has there been any cases of like animals dying next to these facilities, like in massive scales? Like I've heard of like, you know, some of those smelting places.
Oh yeah.
The toxic fumes that comes from those things can like kill off entire flocks of birds. There's all kinds of weird stuff.
There's no question that you know, this is Appalachia.
Right.
Our entire history has been extraction resource and the environmental damage that has been done
right after
and
that.
Still is not completely repaired or mitigated from that.
We have more cancer than any other place
Correct.
in the entire U.S.
And
so
I don't know
that's kind of scary.
Right now you can point to, a major fish kill happened because of a data center.
Right.
But you can definitely point to massive amounts of environmental damage tied to the resources that have to be used to run those data centers. Okay. So this brings us to power generation.
Well, and within the facility, there is noise, light, and air pollution that does affect the wildlife.
Yeah.
Enough
and
to,
human beings.
Like enough to like affect them physically, or are we just talking like they'll just get away from the facility? Like,
migration patterns,
okay,
breeding
so
patterns.
That's what I was wondering.
Eating patterns. Yeah, I've dug down through that because I did not even realize how damaging it was.
Because that's a big deal. So that's one I definitely want to talk about on that then.
Yes, because I was gonna let her talk about the water and the other stuff she was gonna talk about. Yeah. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is 9 pages of noise, air, and light pollution.
You got to think in terms of wildlife that you have so many different species of animals that are acutely sensitive to sound and hearing.
100%. And it's all an ecosystem. You mess with one little thing and it can mess up the entire rest of the rest of them.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board on that one. Is there something that we can do as far as in the immediate now, questions wise, that would maybe halt some of this? Like if we brought attention that, you know, this is a catastrophic thing that's gonna, you know, scare away a certain animal or something like that. Is there anything like that that we have found that's going to be?
There is.
Okay, what's that one?
So in the Big Sandy, there are 2 listed endangered species of crayfish, and Aggie knows more about them than I. In the Mammoth Caves area, northeastern Kentucky, and Carter Caves, we have 4 listed bats that are on the endangered species list. And we have 2 more that I believe the category may be threatened. So bats are impacted flying around
sound,
at night.
Sound,
with the bugs and this, that.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
So the
echolocation.
Yes, the noise and light pollution could potentially, this is for a biologist to answer, this is above my pay grade, but U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the Department of Kentucky Fish and Wildlife are probably, I would say Kentucky's probably working on it, but since these are federally protected endangered species there needs to be an assessment.
Right.
And I'm whoever's listening, I'm calling for an assessment
Okay.
from the powers that be to come in and look at this and see if it's going to be a problem. I'm not claiming it's going to be a problem.
Songbirds. I mean, one of
Exactly.
the things you've got to remember,
Songbirds? What was
songbirds in terms of their entire communication system is going to be disrupted by noise pollution.
Okay.
But here's the thing. There are not as many hyperscale data systems across the U.S. yet as there are smaller data systems. So there are no really good long-term studies out there that we can put our fingers on and say, this population of birds crashed, this population of fish crashed. It's going to take a little time. Those are longer-term studies. And there hasn't been that kind of focus. Some of those may be ongoing. They're not published at this point that we can find. And again, with a week and a half's worth of time.
That was kind of,
to be honest.
I mean, that's why I said,
and a full-time job.
that was a hard one. That was a hard one to swallow. I was like, man, I'm trying to play devil's advocate on all these different places, and I'm like, oh, I can't even say nothing on that one. That was just brutal.
The environmental impacts of the electricity generation are well documented.
Okay.
We know that that's going to be a problem. We're going to have to ramp up whatever our fuel sources are going to be for that electrical production. And there's going to be major environmental impacts, whether we have to reopen or upscale coal mining, whether we have to do additional fracking and try to get, and then distillation to get liquefied natural gas going again. There are environmental impacts.
The water impacts are being documented everywhere.
Water.
Yeah, there was a big one I saw where it dried up an entire lake or something.
The Rio Grande.
The Rio Grande is dry.
What the heck?
It's dry. It's dry.
Yeah.
And there are. It's just an enormous amount of water use. I can give you a couple of facts and figures on it. But basically, what we can tell you is that there's as data centers grow, and right now by 2028, less than 2 years from now, data centers, including hyperscale, are expected to use about 12% of all power generation in the United States. You don't think that's a lot, but you look at billions of terawatts of power across the U.S. as a whole, 12% of that is going to go to data centers. And as fast as they're growing, that number is going to go up. But that's just in the next 2 years.
What is the benefit to humans of these data centers? Like, what is our benefit from getting these? And I know I hear a lot of people say, oh, you get ChatGPT and all this other stuff. But it's like, we have that now without the data centers. So why do we need the data centers in order to do this? That's what I'm wondering. So where's the logic there?
I think a lot of people, this is where you start getting conspiracy theories, and this is where the fear starts coming out because we ask ourselves the same question, yet get no answers.
Yeah.
See, because these are the things I'm looking for. I want the ability to ask the questions that's going to serve us best.
Right.
Like, I want to go speak with the people from Environmental Protection Agency, EPA.
Yeah, EPA.
I want to go and speak with the people that are going to be from the power company. I want to go speak with these people from TerraWolf. I want to speak with all of these people to at least have some kind of thing on the record that we can talk about to like alleviate people's fears of some of this stuff. Like the main ones that I'm kind of concerned about right now are some of the ones like displacement of animals. Like I want to know about that stuff. Like that's important stuff for future generations. Like I want to go talk to a person that's from like parks and forestry, things like that. You know, these are things I'm looking for. So right now, if you had unlimited resources to just figure this out, who would be the first person you would talk to?
First person I would talk to would be Kentucky Power.
Nice. Okay.
I want some answers because one of the things that I've learned and continuing to learn about this is that resource consumption really depends on the technology that's being used.
Okay.
Okay.
So
for
like
instance,
how much it draws?
Well,
like,
the type of technology. Okay. Here's for instance, data centers have to cool down the computer equipment. They have to cool down the loops because they use so much electricity. It's hot, right? So we gotta cool it down so we don't melt the circuits.
Right. Now they said something about
a closed loop system
versus an open loop.
Let's talk about this for just a second.
Okay.
There are many different ways that you can cool down these systems. All right. An open loop system is a system that literally circulates water through pipes to keep everything cold, and it's a continuous circulation. So they have to draw in continuously cold water, run it through the system, and then send the hot water on and bring in new cold water to keep things. Incredibly energy intensive, incredibly water intensive. So resource use not sustainable.
Yeah, it sounds
Now,
very inefficient.
Very
Like,
inefficient. So
why
the
wouldn't you
next
put it
generation of
like
that
Alaska
then,
or someplace where it's like super cold all the time.
yeah, right.
Makes more sense.
Would make sense.
Yeah.
So, but that's not where they're building data centers.
Yeah, it does not seem like it. It does not seem like it. I'm just like, they're going to put it on farmland for some reason.
Right.
I'm like, why are
So
we doing this?
the next generation of that technology was the closed loop system.
Okay.
All right, so the closed loop system, the original closed loops, and several, well, at least one of TeraWulf's current data systems centers is still operating with this. It's a closed loop system that circulates the water, then takes it outside of the data center once it's hot, puts the hot water through a cooling tower where the water falls down and gets cooled off before it's circulated back. But it takes a tremendous amount of water. So there's what they call an internal loop and an external loop.
Oh, okay.
Now, again, I'm not an engineer.
No, that's
so you
more
might
than I
want to
knew
talk
just
to an
a minute
engineer
ago.
in your
Right.
list of people,
There we
right?
go.
But we've got an internal and external loop. Still very water intensive. And they do have at least one per their website data center that is using that technology. The newest iteration of this is a closed loop system that is a dry cooling system. So what they do is they fill it up initially with water, they run the water through the system, and then they vent the heat outside. Instead of using additional water to cool, there's no second loop. They use huge cooling fans to basically cool it down before they send it back into the building again. That's a dry closed loop system. Now, out of all of these systems, that's the most energy efficient, resource efficient, let's put it that way, water efficient, uses the least of the water. You got to use a lot of water to fill it up on the front end, but then you're going to continuously recirculate that water. They say for at least up to 10 years. Again, I don't know, not my wheelhouse, but it could theoretically be circulated for a long time before they'd have to refill. Now, TeraWulf is using several of these dry closed loop systems in data centers that they're already building, including the one that's proposed for Hawesville, Kentucky. So the question is, what kind of technology for cooling is going to happen at that data center? Might allay some of the concerns about water consumption for the data center, but the data center is not where the resource consumption is happening. The resource consumption is happening at the power company.
Okay.
So this is why I say I want to talk to the power company before I talk to anybody else. Are you going to use a fairly inefficient cooling system at the Big Sandy plant like Louisa currently has? They generate the power, they recirculate about 250,000 gallons of water in that plant to cool everything down as they're generating electricity with the turbines. And then they send that outside to a great big tower. If you've ever driven down Route 23, you'll see it. It's like, most people confuse it with a nuclear power plant because it's this great big cooling tower, but it's water that's falling down through that and being cooled before it's recirculated. But to manage that system, when water falls down through the air, you lose a ton of it to evaporation. So they got to make up water all the time. And Louisa, right now, the Big Sandy plant pulls about 60,000 gallons a day of water as makeup. And that's for a small 248 megawatt power station.
Now, I'm curious, is that filtered clean water that they're pulling in, or is that just regular water that's
Anything that they discharge has to be clean. They do have some settling ponds and other stuff, plus it gets sent to water treatment plants. So because they are an established industrial use of that water, they have to have permits to discharge it.
At least there's something there.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't get to thermal pollution. I'll come back to that in a second if you want me to. We'll talk about it in just a minute. Okay, we'll talk about thermal pollution. But we're talking about just literally water use, taking water out of a resource, the Big Sandy River, that other people might need. Okay. So right now, it's not. It's a drop in the bucket, honestly, to serve a smaller county, smaller community. Now we're talking about a gigawatt of electrical generation. Okay. And that is going to require an extraordinary amount of electricity over the course of a year, on the order of terawatts.
Yeah, it's like
which is going to be on the order of millions and millions of gallons of water to try to do that. If they use that kind of technology. So one of my questions for Kentucky Power is, what are you going to do about water consumption? Are there technologies that are more sustainable than what you currently got going on that is going to conserve water so you don't have to draw millions of gallons of water out of the Big Sandy to run those almost 8 terawatts of electricity you're going to need to run a 1 gigawatt data center? And I bet you there are.
Yeah.
I bet there are more water conservative technologies. We have no information.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
and then you've already discussed what we're paying on average and how our electric bills are higher. So when you say, how is this going to benefit us? You're asking the people who live in the area who are going to pay the higher electric bills, who fear for their water security.
Yeah.
These are things we haven't, that have not been discussed with us.
Right.
But once they tell us the scale or show us the maps, what is it going to mean? Because this is a hyperscale, the likes of which at least Kentucky has never seen before.
Right.
And there's not a lot of, as we said, these go up in scale. There's no information out there.
Yeah.
And so you have to sort of kind of guess
Yeah,
what might happen.
Which is ridiculous.
I mean, if you're a scientist, you probably do all the math. And you do some engineering.
You can't
and
do
some,
the math if you don't know what the technology is. What is the plan? I mean,
and that was pretty much, at least for me. This was my reason for bringing some of this information to light, is because someone smarter than me is going to have to say, oh, but she didn't think about this, or this is a question that's not been asked, or hey, I know something about this technology, so I need to say something so other people are informed, because we're starting at scratch and we've had only about a week to go forward and digest this. There's so many questions on so many levels in so many disciplines, and we're talking everything from lawyers to fish and wildlife agencies to,
and that's why I
our
said
companies.
so to be fair, and like I said, I like at least acknowledging it where I can. Mr. Cheney said that he would want those same questions answered.
Right.
Out of everybody that was up there, he's the only one that I heard say that.
Agreed.
So
He did.
I just want to give him a shout out for that. Thank you for at least thinking of us that way, and that's a cool thing. So let's see if that can be addressed, and I think he can get more people will answer him faster than they would me or anybody else that's out there. You know what I mean? So
well, I think the citizens in the community would answer your questions just fine if you showed up to ask them, how's your quality of life been? How have your bills been?
That's a fair point.
How has your water? I mean, did what is it, Lake Tahoe?
Yeah, the Tahoe area.
That's the one that I heard.
So they're losing their electricity.
Yeah.
They're cutting them off.
As of May 2027.
So they're cutting off their electricity.
They're cutting off their electricity.
Like 100%.
Like you're going to flip the switch and there's no light.
For how long? What are they saying?
Indefinitely.
Why?
Because they're rerouting all of that, what's currently available on their grid, their infrastructure, they're rerouting it all to a data center.
Yes, that includes Lake Tahoe businesses.
It's
tourism, yes.
Tourism, yeah.
So they're going to pick
at 50,000 homes.
So they're going to pick the data center over the people that need it to live. So
50,000 homes.
So we're talking about people on ventilators, people that are on oxygen machines, people that are on. So they're going to just literally flip them off.
Your refrigerator just shut off, folks. Unless you can find another source of power. So you got, I don't remember what the projection was, but 2 years, 2 or 3 years.
And by the way, when we are passing this information along to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're getting snippets like this from a news agency that barely scratched the surface of the announcement.
And that's what I'm curious on. So that, okay, so that's the point of this that I love about our show, is that I don't want to put out something that's not factual or correct, right?
Right.
So that's the thing. It's your story, our lens. That's our whole point. I want to go back after we get done with this and check all of the things that we do to make sure all this is correct to be able to put out there.
It can't be just you. Everybody has
Right.
to
Everybody
pick up
has
the
to
ball
put a
and run
part.
with it.
100%.
Because there's no way, like, I can't memorize
look at the
everything.
data.
Right.
Go back and look at the reports, reporting of the data from the U.S. Department of Energy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
federal government agency. They did a 2014 report 10 years ago. All right, we're a decade out. 2014 report. Data centers used 5.6 billion gallons of water each year in the U.S. By 2023, 84% of that water was going to hyperscale centers. Water use areas, let's see, water use was 17.4 billion gallons.
Jeez.
So we went from 5.6 to 17.4 billion gallons of water in a 10-year period, with 84% going to hyperscale data centers.
And I've seen snippets through social media, through these no data center, you know, Facebook pages, where water's being diverted from residents because it has to go to the data center. That is something that someone really needs to look
somebody
into.
needs to look into that, because that doesn't make any sense. Like at any cost, that should be shut off before ever taking away from somebody's.
But over in Columbus, Ohio, the fire department is being taxed they're being pushed to the max, because they responded to, I believe they said 170 data center fire calls. One of them lasted 24 hours. Because of the way the data centers are built, they have to access things. It's a little more difficult than in your normal warehouse fire or whatever. It took them 24 hours to work that. So that is resources being pulled back out of the community.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is apparently a recurring theme.
And that's what I'm wondering. Are they going to pay an extra percentage to the fire departments to help them mitigate that cost? Or are they just like, oh, taxpayer will pay for this? Like, that's kind of what
all we could really glean from that meeting in Boyd County, now you correct me if I'm wrong, but all that we could really glean was that the only return to the community financially was going to be property taxes that they would be paying on the site at the industrial center. I didn't hear anything else.
Yeah,
and several of these other communities with either data centers or hyperscale data centers have at least negotiated something called in lieu of taxes payments.
Right.
So the data center has provided financial benefit back to the community, whether it went to schools, whether it went to health, whatever. But there have been benefits, financially tracked benefits to communities. We don't hear of any, and you're talking the largest hyperscale data center in the country going in here. Where are our in lieu of tax payments to this 5-county region in an economically depressed part of Appalachia that desperately could use that economic support? Where is it?
Yeah.
Where are in lieu of tax payments?
That's 100%.
Where have those been articulated?
Well, and my question is, have they been beefing up certain services in expectation of the data center arriving? That has been on the backs of the taxpayers that live here now. So, for example, I've heard rumblings that Kentucky Power has been building the grid. Did we pay for those improvements, since we pay 30% higher?
100%, because we paid for that other
Well, there's also
system that just went down.
Bobby Hall asked about, or I'm sorry, said to everyone about beefing up fire and EMS in his area. I can't remember the numbers. I'm happy for the community. I think we all deserve it. However, they beefed that up as well. And now data center fires are a concern.
It looks like we're going to end up having to do a small channel that's just dedicated to these answers towards data centers.
Also, fiber optic.
Right.
So we live out in very rural America, and all of a sudden in the last year, we have obtained fiber optic.
Right.
And some of my friends who live in more,
Mm-hmm.
populated areas are like, how'd you get that out there? Was that in anticipation of this project?
I mean, yeah,
we don't know. These are
more
questions
than
that have to
likely.
be asked.
That's more than likely, because I mean that's
So
kind of a
where
massive
in
thing.
all of these things, whether it be electric, whether it be water, whether it be fiber optic, or whether it be fire and emergency service, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There could be more to be listed. But what have we already paid for as citizens, not knowing that this hyperscale data center is coming, and there's going to be even more that has to be built?
Yeah. I mean, I look at it this way. When it comes to taxes, we are like mushrooms. We are literally kept in the dark and fed a bunch of crap. So there's nothing we can do as far as like saying, hey, I'd like to. I know that there's like a Freedom of Information Act we can do to where we can request certain information on that. But that still doesn't really kind of tell you realistically what they're doing with the taxes. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, our taxes pay for this road, it should be fixed. And it's like, I don't know if that works on all roads. I mean, and there's like some back county roads, there's some roads that it doesn't protect. Like there's just a lot of little loopholes and stuff on that. So I don't know anything about taxes like that. That's something I really would like to talk to the judges and these people to see what they say on that, because that always bugged me. It's like we pay all these taxes, but we don't know where it goes.
They hold the purse strings for the county.
Yeah.
There really should be more transparency.
There should. But and again, this is another like and I'm not trying to toot this guy's horn. Like he's a good dude, but it's like he's like the first person to put it on Facebook, right? So that's the reason why he's getting kind of like blasted right now.
Yeah.
And
I know.
It's like this it's not that out of the question that we could have a camera sit down and have a meeting where the people can look at this, once a week or once a month on Facebook or something to be like, oh, that's cool. Now I understand that. Like if, not everybody can make it to these meetings, and then they make them in some of the weirdest times. I need you to show up on the third moon of the fourth day when we have a solar eclipse up in the sky. You're like,
true. And they schedule them during people's work days.
That's what I'm saying.
So
They're scheduled in the weirdest times.
Right.
I'm like, we have to have some kind of we're in the digital age. Come on, guys. We can have a camera to talk about this and just do it right to our homes.
This is something where a lot of people, myself included, I live my little country mouse life. I don't pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah.
This woke me up. I've met a lot of my neighbors.
It's massive.
I have gone to meetings I would have never thought attending.
Yeah.
And now I'm saying to myself, I didn't realize I was supposed to pay attention to 5Co rather than just Carter County.
It's
I didn't realize that, these meetings are actually on Facebook. I could have watched them, or I should be going to these. And, in fairness, I was taking care of my mom with Alzheimer's. I didn't do much other than that for the last 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. But everybody has those kind of problems. Everybody has to work.
You got to look into a thing called Ambagain.
Oh, she passed last year.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But I mean, everybody has children they have to take care of. Everybody has work responsibilities. Some people have school responsibilities, family obligations for, everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Plus, every once in a while, they would just like to come home and shut the TV off, have a beer, and do a barbecue. And not be bothered by the weight of responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to that whole thing about public trust.
Yes, absolutely.
Public trust. When you elect officials, you are handing them your trust that they will act in your best interest.
Yeah.
And I think as it goes back to Cheney, I think he felt that weight.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones, I don't think they felt the weight. I'm just saying.
And I think that's a big thing. It's like whether or not people know it or not, these are all humans.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's right.
if they live in these areas, which you have to live in the area that you preside over,
right,
you're going to be affected by this too. Like this is like something that's going to eat up at your kids, your family, your people are going to be here too. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, are they thinking this as well?
Here's another question too, though. The judge executives signed the NDAs. Okay, well, fine and good. But they were not the real estate agents who made that deal.
And that's what I was about to say. And they're not.
Where is the real estate agent who basically created these contracts,
Right.
got surveys, do whatever
Okay.
all they have to do.
Well,
for
I know
this.
as a realtor, you have fiduciary responsibilities to protect.
So why are we
the
not
deal.
hearing from that information should be separate from an NDA.
Well, I think with that one, I'm going to have to say it's probably platform. They don't have a platform to talk about this stuff. Like, where would they go to? Like, are they going to go on Facebook and just start blabbing it out there to people? Like, would they go to the news to say it? Because, I mean, to be honest, the news is more kind of sometimes like,
Yeah.
if it's not a story that's like attention grabbing, they're not
Right.
really looking to put it out there. Like,
Well, why weren't
Well,
they at the Boyd County
but
meeting?
here's the thing,
I mean,
again,
if
this
they-
is what I'm saying.
if
It's
they
like
gave the judge
it's not
executives-
exactly.
An NDA, they gave everybody that was handling this in any manner an NDA.
Right.
This was
Okay.
a blanket. That is my guess.
So, but they were
Probably.
To protect their
there.
business
We
interests.
had a bunch of people sitting around us that were in the news. We were on the right hand side on the wall.
okay.
There was a bunch of news professionals that were
Yeah,
there that showed
yeah.
up. So I didn't see any of this come out yet, though,
No.
on any of these channels. Like, as far as I know, the only one that I have seen actually working on it is Mr. Snyder, Aaron Snyder. He's done like a bunch, like he's wrote big reports on it.
Right.
I don't know what that other gentleman's name is that was at the end of our meeting, the last meeting we was at. He got up there and he kind of questioned.
asked some questions.
Yeah, he asked some pretty powerful, and he
Okay,
seemed
good.
pretty on it, like a pit bull. I got to get that guy's name. He
Well,
was on
and,
it,
and
but
again, that is something I would say is that investigative journalism
Mm-hmm.
is all but dead, because what they've done is
now it's to the people. The people now
Well,
have the ability to do that.
exactly.
That's what I was going to say.
But
yeah.
but the people that were there from the news media, all they did was pull little snippets and say, residents are outraged, and
Yeah.
that was the end of the story.
Right.
There's so much more here to look at.
So for me, I'm weird, right? I'm so weird. Like, I want your whole entire thing that you say. Like, and
Right.
but the problem is that's a 15, 20 minute clip that I have to put on for just that person. And it's like, if I use the entire thing, it's like 2 hours and some change. The only two places that will allow me to use that kind of time is YouTube and Facebook. Those are the only two that'll allow those things. Now, when I do that, most people aren't going to sit and watch a 2 hour
I'm
long
just sitting here
thing,
thinking that.
right?
This
Like,
is long.
they're like this. They're like, they're not going to watch that. But then you'd be surprised. I've had plenty of people that love my content because I don't do that. Like, I make the whole thing out first. I'll do the whole entire thing and I put it out on Facebook and on YouTube.
Okay.
You can watch that whole entire thing. Do most people do that? No. They wait for me to like take a clip of that 2 hour thing and I'll cut it down to like a 15 to 20 minute clip of that person's whole thing that they say. But again, I don't try to cut it shorter than that. I still want all of the thing that they say, but it's still a long clip.
Right.
Then after I do that, I'll put that out. Then I'll do the smaller clips that get people's attention. That'll be like the 5 minute, 1 minute, 3 minute, whatever.
The sound bites.
The little sound bites that just get people to come to the channel.
Right.
And then they have all of the stuff up there. Not every like thing can do that. Like, there, the news is, and I hate to say it this way, but it's kind of a dead platform because you've got an hour long show, right? For the news. 30 minutes of it is, if not more, is damn near all commercials, right? So like you're
Right.
gonna get
Right.
like, it's just annoying as crap. So by the time you actually get to the juicy part, you might get a 5 minute interview of somebody that's gonna be cut into such.
I know.
I hate it. I hate it so much because it makes media look like as if they're trying to be this like
Hit and run artist.
Sensationalism.
And it's
Right.
sensationalism at its finest, and I hate it. Because that's the part that sells, and I don't like that. So I know that there is people out there like me that's weird that wants to know every piece of this,
But the
that
whole
wants
story.
to hear the whole story. So
You
that's
never know what you might
what we're
find
trying to
out
do.
in the conversation. Something that
Right.
she says or you say, or it might strike something like, "Hey, didn't I hear this? Or
Right.
shouldn't I know this? Or could I?"
And
they
here's
might
the
go
other
somewhere
part
with
that
it.
comes with this. With those companies, when they do that, they get beneficiaries that come in and will give them like monetary stipends to just basically put what they want. So like you can't do a certain story that might hurt some of the other things that they might have. Like, okay, so like, for example, you might have a business that works with AEP or works with TerraWolf or works with any of these places, and they can't say something that's going to go against their own shareholders or the people that are paying their money to get these out there. For me, I don't have any of those restraints. I'm not bidden or burdened by any of them to tell me what I can or can't put out there. But it puts a strain on us because we have to finance this ourselves, and the people don't really choose to want to, you know what I mean? They don't really want to help like that. So it's not like they're going to like go out of their way to pay for certain investigators. That's the problem. So back in the day, you would go investigate a story because you knew that that was going to financially be a hit once you did get all the data out there, right? You're going to be like, oh, this is going to be the story. It's the scoop of the century. Like that was the big thing. This is the scoop. We don't have that now because the paychecks are coming from other ways. It's like, say our company's name and we'll give you something to make a commercial out of it or something. Like you get it that way, but you don't really see the big paydays for like people who do. Biggest scoop in American history should have been the Snowden thing, right? Like that should have been the biggest thing of all time. Like you are being spied on by everyone. Like this is like insane. That guy maybe might have made $1,000 for that story if he's being lucky, and I'm being generous on that. That might not have even made that much money. So it's not really big money like you would think it would be. It's not. So like then you have people who do like Love Island or those stupid little dating shows or whatever. They make millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. So where's the priority that goes for this? Like you've got something that's really important that everybody needs to know about gets zero funding. Then you got something that nobody cares about that's getting all of the funding in the world. Like, I mean, if you were to tell me, like, if we went down the street right now and we talked to every person that we saw down there, and I said, how many judges do we have in this county? And what's their names? No one could tell me a single one of them. They might tell me one, but then if I told them who's the first lineup of the people that's going to be playing the big game tonight, they know every person's name, their stats, their shoe size, their equivalent. I'm like, it's good priorities. It's good. It's good priorities.
Right.
Well, maybe things like this will wake people up to we should have different priorities. I don't know.
I'm at a point where I want to believe that people will want to know this stuff and that they will want to make a difference and they'll want to do all of these things. But it's like, people have to show appreciation with their feet. They got to move with their feet. Yes. So like, I heard a lot of people that was always like, oh, we don't want Walmarts because they kill out all of our businesses and local stuff. Right. But then they all go to Walmart. It's like I don't know what to say for that. And I don't know how to make that better. So until then, we just get the information out there. So now, based off of what you've learned now, what's your next steps?
My next step is hopefully to be present at the June 17 meeting with another list of prepared questions.
And that is June 17th, and that's going to be located where?
At the Boyd County High School Gymnasium.
Boyd County.
From 6 to 8 p.m.
All right. So you guys heard that. You guys better be out there. It's telling everybody, it's just like, this is your call to action right now.
If we will or will not have an opportunity to ask questions, we don't know.
Because this might actually be the last meeting. We don't know if they'll do more. But the way that Mr. Cheney was talking about it, he did say that they were willing to answer all questions up until that time of whatever they. Right. So that kind of was a positive thing because, I don't know. I'd like to believe that we saw, and I'm only going to say this because this is my experience that I saw since I have been doing this. We've only been doing this since November, okay? When we first started this, we heard a lot of things that, oh, nothing can be done about AEP raising their rates for all this other stuff. The people came together, people started going to these meetings, they showed up, and they didn't get that accomplished. They got a smaller amount, but they didn't get it accomplished what they were trying to do.
Correct.
When we first started, they said, oh, these people that are going to take over the Paramount, they're going to ruin it, and they're going to do all this other stuff, and it's going to be this awful thing. Come to find out, they're amazing people. They weren't doing any of the crap that people were saying, and it was just this big load of junk that people were just putting out there. When you actually get to meet the people, and you get to hear it for yourself, it's always kind of a different thing. So there's like this gray area of what could be or what is, and then it's always in that middle part of it. I'm hoping that after everything is said and done, this can be one of those things to where it's not so bad this way. Hopefully it's right in the middle and it's not too unbearable, but
if not, maybe we can negotiate a little bit. Maybe we can negotiate to get some more sustainable safeguards in place.
That I like.
For the environment.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You know, what conversations can we open with TerraWolf about
and I'm curious,
mitigation?
Who would enforce those?
What?
Who would enforce those? See, that's a good question to know.
Very good question.
I do not have a clue. Is that military that would be doing that? Is that
Well, you'd think it would be where, like, whatever regulator, like if it's a water improvement they promised to make, you would think the EPA would be involved.
EPA, that's what I'm wondering.
One of the questions I asked was about who was going to monitor and how often and what they were going to monitor for. I'd like to see some answers to those questions. But I think people also need to understand about this data center, this massive hyperscale center, is that it's not going to be TerraWolf on site. People need to understand that TerraWolf is an umbrella company. They're like a shell company. So what they do, at least their MO for all the other data centers they have currently built and have managed, is they're responsible for getting the facility built in place, getting the electrical power contracts and getting that hookup done, getting the fiber optic done.
And then they rent that out to another person?
Back and lease out that space to various AI computing companies.
Okay.
So one of the things we don't know about is who is going to be in that center. Like what kinds of data processing companies are going to be in that center. And if we're talking about some collaborative work to try to reduce impacts or mitigate impacts that would be negative, is this going to have to be something that all players are going to be willing to sign on to, or is it just go to TerraWolf?
That's a fair point.
It's a little complicated. And again, no information about what their plans are, or who they would be contracted with currently that would be looking to take up some of that space. And
I'm curious. I just really want to know what they do exactly. Is it Bitcoin mining? Is it more just, they sell data like in general? Like,
everything
where are you getting this data? Like, what are we?
Everything
like,
that we've read about TerraWolf says that they were originally Bitcoin mining.
Okay, so
and they're kind of billing themselves right now as making a shift from Bitcoin mining to AI data processing. They're talking about this shift that they're going through.
I'm kind of
pivoting.
Yeah,
pivoting.
I'm kind of wondering what that would entail.
They do, in several of the data centers they currently have operational, they do retain a portion of the facility for Bitcoin mining.
Okay, so
and that's the only piece that TerraWolf keeps.
Okay, so
everything
that
else
is a big part of their thing. Okay, so that's kind of what I was wondering. So I'm curious. I'm wondering if I can actually get an interview with somebody from TerraWolf. That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be a good one to do.
It would be nice to hear from them because, again, we don't know how much time, and we don't know in a 2-hour time slot
would that
on June 17, are we going to scratch the surface or anything else?
That's the important thing too. If you were to get an interview with them, if it could be done before the meeting on the 17th,
would be amazing.
And then we could digest the information and then ask intelligent questions at the meeting, or if what they had to say would alleviate some of the fear, the uncertainty, the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
the lack of trust.
Yep.
You know, maybe some of these things could be addressed before the meeting, and the meeting would be more productive.
I'm definitely going to try to reach out to them and see if, because I mean, it's 12:15 now. Pretty sure as soon as we get done with this, we could go ahead and just give them a call and see if they would be willing to speak with us. But where it's Saturday, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
I think
You know, that
Monday.
cookout thing going on.
And I don't even know where or who you would call. I mean, they're
I know.
headquartered in New York City, so I don't know. Right.
You know, that's the fun part about this job is that you would think that there would be a lot more companies that do this type of thing where they meet other bigger companies and try to like do some communicating in between these things. Like, you know,
Right.
you don't see a lot of that. There's not.
Well, the question is, you know, why has TerraWolf not been on the ground with the public relations campaign?
At all. They weren't at that meeting.
No.
There was not even a single person there.
No
Not even
public
a
relations
red
whatsoever.
statement. There wasn't even a statement there that was from them.
The
I was like,
website hasn't even been
that one
reflective
kinda
of the
blew me
project.
You know, most companies, if you had a Marathon refinery, for instance, getting ready to expand, there would probably be a PR campaign
for sure.
talking about how great this is. Why don't we have a PR campaign from TerraWolf?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is it because they're just not at all concerned about anything that the community has to say, that they don't care, or is it because they are trying to figure it out themselves and don't have it all lined out?
And that could be a possibility too.
And
You know,
not
That could be a
only that,
possibility.
but we are dealing with 5 counties.
Mhm.
Boyd County will be the most affected, of course,
Mhm.
but we're dealing with a 5-county region. They held that town meeting in Boyd County.
Right.
There should be town hall meetings being held
At each one of them.
at
for
each
sure.
one of these counties, where every resident in a county
Mhm.
gets some answers as to how this is going to impact them.
For sure.
But until we speak to Kentucky Power, or until we speak to, you know, some of these other entities, we're not going to know how this impacts us.
It's very true.
And I will say too, you know, if you're somebody who your property or maybe your electric provider or somebody, and this doesn't seem to impact you, you might want to educate yourself and stand up for your neighbor. Because just because it's happening in an area where, you know, I don't think sound or light is going to impact me in my farm, like 30 miles away.
Right.
I know it'll probably put my electric through the roof.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it'll impact my water. But, you know, I personally have a question. I live in an area where you might be able to give me the percentage. How many people up on that ridge don't have water going to their house, that have to haul water?
Oh, out of what do we
Just
have?
general
Something like
percentage.
50 families, at least 75% of them are hauling water. We don't have a lot
So
of
we live in
wells.
an area where 75% of the residents who live up on that hill have to haul water to live. They've been asking for a pipeline to bring water up to those homes. They're being told it's too expensive to come up there. Now, this is like a, what do they call it? Not water poverty. Is that what they call it?
Water scarcity.
Water scarcity issue for families living in Carter County. But you signed on to a deal with a business that looks like it could impact water throughout the entire region.
Yes.
But you won't even entertain getting water. And I'm sure our area is not the only people that don't have piped in water. Then comes the question, so any water that they use at the TerraWolf plant is going to have to go through water treatment. I have heard, and I'm not a water treatment expert, someone else needs to speak to this, but I have heard there are forever chemicals and things that cannot be removed from that water. Sludge is what they call it. There's, and I don't know if the sludge and the treated water are two different things.
Sediment
Well,
sludge or
here's the
something like
thing.
that?
Where is that water that is being treated from TerraWolf going to end up? Is it going to end up where my neighbors go to Grayson to get water to haul up? Is it going to end up in Vanceburg, where my neighbors get that water and haul it up to their home?
That's all great questions, and those are the ones that I really want to ask TerraWolf, and to be able to like have them answer those.
Well, we also need to
kind of
speak to the
important.
water treatment people, because have they beefed up their infrastructure? Are they going to be able to handle whatever the output is? We don't even know what the output is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
It's going to
they're-
go back to the technology. It's going to depend on what technology is being used.
Yeah.
If it's a dry closed loop system, probably not much water is going to be released.
Yeah.
Now, that if they can evaporate it down to just get the sludge, that's pretty toxic stuff. It's going to have to go somewhere into storage.
Now, I heard somebody at that meeting said once a quarter or once a year.
Oh, that was probably in the questions that
It was,
she asked.
well, it was in the questions. That's if you have
Closed
a
loop versus
closed loop with that outside secondary loop, not the dry system. If you have that double loop system, they have to go through a process called blowdowns or drawdowns. It shows up both ways. And essentially what they're doing is they're flushing the system. Because after you've circulated that water for a long period of time, it's going to build up because they're adding a lot of chemical additives to it. So there's stuff that's going to build up in the loops in the system. So they have to flush it out. And when they do, it takes a lot of water. They have to do makeup water. They have to fill loops back up again. And then they have to do something with this water that holds all these contaminants. And we mentioned some of them at the meeting, things like antifreeze, which are pretty toxic when they hit an aquatic system.
Yeah.
And other things, acids, anti-corrosives, and honestly don't know exactly what all is added to that water, but it's designed to keep it moving, lubricants and things to keep it moving through the system. But all that stuff doesn't go away. Some of those chemicals are pretty toxic things.
So now it seems like we're falling back again on the EPA. The EPA has to have some kind of an accountability for that.
I've seen news stories where the sludge is going on farmers' fields already. I've seen a lot of people calling for the EPA to step in, and
the EPA is not litigating a lot of things right now.
Well, what's going on with that?
Their numbers have been cut drastically in terms of federal employees, and there are a lot of restrictions now on what they can litigate and what they can't. And as we all know, that the federal government...
Isn't that their whole job? That's their whole job. Like, you have one job, EPA,
What
one
they
job.
can do, what
my
they can
gosh.
do is highly dependent on the federal administration in any given 4-year period.
Wow.
If you have a federal administration that is friendly toward environment and protecting environment, they're able to litigate a lot more cases. If you had a federal administration that is not environmentally friendly, maybe it's more industry or business friendly, they are
Makes total
muzzled
sense. That makes total sense.
in terms of what they can litigate. And right now, the EPA is not able to litigate much of anything.
'Cause it's all
Plus, a lot of
business.
their lawyers, the top lawyers, litigators for EPA, people that have all the years of experience, those people, for the most part, are all gone now.
I hate the fact that hindsight is always 2020, and that we're
Well, that
going
was-
to look back at this, and it's going to be one of
Oh,
those things where
no
that's
question.
when we're going to find all the like, oh yeah, we if we would have known, it's
We
like,
had
yeah,
people
we
that could've
did,
done that.
we
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
we knew.
well, the thing is, though, I don't think most people have an understanding of some of this stuff until it's on your doorstep,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
you want to find out, and
100%.
you're like, oh, I seen this on Facebook, or I saw this somewhere else.
Mhm.
Crap, I better look into this now. And then you start drilling down through it, and it
Yeah.
is overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is overwhelming.
overwhelming.
I took a couple things that interested me, and I started looking into it. And then, of course, I do what you do. I go and say, is this actually true? And so then I drill down something else. I ended up with migraines just about every day, just after lunchtime. Can't take it no more.
It gets ridiculous.
I can't handle anything coming at me, whether it be lights, information,
Right.
loud noises,
Right.
my dog barking.
Loud
I'm like,
noises.
you know,
I made a clip
this
on
is-
that. That
this
was
is-
just hilarious.
this is just all consuming when you start digging
It
down
is.
through it.
It is.
And some of the things, people are going to be like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But based on other things I know,
Mhm.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and facts is facts.
Yeah. It's a weird part of this that makes it seem so far out. Like you just wouldn't expect that any of this is real, and it's just that in your face with it.
But the thing
I
is,
do believe-
you can't ignore it when it comes from person after person after site after site
Right.
after site. Like the noise in the air, or the noise and the light pollution, that is every data center, mega data center, whatever you visit. It's consistently reported. It's a consistent concern.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it at that point. It's not like, oh, we're doing business with company ABC over here and they're just lousy business people and they're mean to the community. This is a consistent thing by the very nature of the beast. This is what we're going to be dealing with, and on a larger scale.
There has to be something that can be done for stuff like this when you have a business that shows up to a town that the town does not want. Like,
Oh, well, there are all kinds of communities and towns across the United States that are pushing back against this now, because we have over 4,000 operational data centers in the U.S. right now. Smaller
you said there's
percentages,
four
over 4,000. I think it's like
of these?
4,400 plus.
Yes.
Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, has been doing Facebook videos on this stuff, but there's like and Aaron Brockovich has a map, an AI data center map. So there are more than like 4,400 operating centers.
Apparently
Not all of them
she'd
are.
been doing this for forever, talking about these.
Well,
which is
and here's the
crazy.
other thing too. So it's when you look this stuff up, you have to look at when the information came out.
Right.
So I had looked it up and found 3,000 data centers with another 1,000 or so in process. Depends on what date that information was put out. So you really have to pay attention to everything that you're looking at, because it could be old information.
Right.
partial
They're building very
information.
quickly.
Yeah.
Are you getting it by a fly-by-night agency, or are you getting it from a reputable source? It takes a lot to drill down
it
through this
does.
stuff,
This is
Fact-checking
why it's,
stuff.
and you know this.
where I have been saying this for the longest time. We keep allowing these multi-million-dollar companies to come down into Appalachia, and we're making millionaires and billionaires
Yes.
out of people who do not care about the area. Like,
No.
and I do not understand that. I don't understand
What-
that.
what
If
I
we
don't-
had been, there's no excuse why Appalachia shouldn't have some of the best school systems,
100%.
the best roads, the
Yeah.
best infrastructure in the entire U.S. When you look at the vast amount of wealth that has been extracted from this region.
Yep.
And I think one of the reasons I'm fighting so hard for this is I don't want to see this next generation, these young kids that I keep graduating out of my classrooms every year, to be stuck in that same cycle of take, and never give back. Sorry, if you're going to come and take, you need to give back to the people of Appalachia.
100%.
And that's another, and to that point, just talking about the electricity alone, we'll just talk about that. What is the cost of living increase going to do to these families who are already struggling?
Yeah. We had when we first started, we've only been in business since November. We had 2 months back to back where we had over $1,000 electric bills.
Yes.
That blew us away. We were like,
Yes.
that was more than what we were paying for the rent. It was like,
And here's the other thing. So most homeowners, we will do everything that we are asked to do. We will use energy efficient light bulbs. We will turn off the lights. We will not use excessive heat or excessive air conditioning. We'll make sure the windows are covered, blinds, make sure our insulation's up to date. We do everything we can to lower our electricity bill. These folks come in and have billions upon billions of dollars, and they come in and they don't, and I cannot speak to whether TerraWolf would do this or not, but they do take shortcuts, and they don't care because they don't live in our community.
Yeah. There was somebody that was asking a good question about whether or not they make their own power on site.
Depends on the scale of systems. This is where we were start to get into that discussion about small modular nuclear reactors. And in some cases,
Because that'll hurt us again because then it'll go to the taxpayer because
That's
they're not
right.
using any of the power from.
If they can't
Mm-hmm.
supply enough power to the grid,
Mhm.
then they have to generate on site. So I was looking at a news clip last night, the data center that Musk built. I think, is it the one in Georgia? I'm not.
Where he has the
I've-
gig, he has
it's
the
a hyperscale.
gigafactory is what
it's
he
a,
is.
yeah, it's a
gigafactory.
hyperscale.
Mhm.
And they brought in these massive turbines
Mhm.
on the backs of tractor trailers that they ran to produce power on site.
Right.
Again, you're using diesel. How feasible is that going to be? Well, as we all know, diesel's going through the roof right along with gasoline prices
Right.
right now. So that, I'm sure that's a significant cost for that particular data center. But we may just see these situations where they get so big that there's no way for the power industry to catch up fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at this and then we say, all right, TeraWulf says they want to be operational at half the 500 megawatts in the next 2 years, and then by 2030 to hit that 1 gigawatt. So it's a phased construction, right? How fast is Kentucky Power going to be able to ramp up to that scale of electricity? And are they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
Massive.
a valid
here's,
question.
Here's my question too. If they're the ones using all the electricity, keep changing their rate. If you want to be a power hog,
100%.
you know what? And you want to abuse the power grid,
Mhm.
you pay
Yeah.
and freeze our rates in perpetuity, not for 12 years.
Yeah.
Because I told somebody,
Right.
if you freeze our rates for 12 years, well, by the time they're running at their highest and potentially building even more,
Yeah.
they're going to be gobbling up electricity like nobody's business, and then we'll be unprotected.
Mm-hmm.
The little resident person that is on the power grid that is doing everything they can to
Right.
not use a lot of electricity should never be punished by these people with, what is the word I'm looking for? Unending resources,
Yeah.
who can afford the
Unlimited
electric bill. We're paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I said, I think Mr. Bashir was talking about something about that they have to. He was trying to pass some kind of an ordinance or something.
I think it was to try to get them to pay for their power
Right.
separately so that ratepayers
Won't be
would not be
affected,
impacted.
right.
Now, what I can tell you is that there's a study out there from Harvard, I think just published last year, and it comes out of their School of Economics and Business. And they've looked at multiple sites where there are data centers, and promises have been made that rates will not be passed on to
Yeah.
ratepayers, that it will be absorbed by the data centers. And I've only gotten through the executive summary, haven't been able to read the whole thing yet, not enough time. But what I can tell you is they examined 50 different case studies, 50 different sites. And in none of those sites were they able to find any evidence that the ratepayers were being protected from increased electrical costs.
Jeez.
In none of
Well,
their
we do have
evidence
a
did they
really,
find that.
you know, our governor does care, so we could possibly just have the one governor who actually wants to help. So that could be a thing. Let's hope for the
well,
best.
And there's an article right there. It says why data centers will be economic development duds. It's by the Ohio River Valley Institute. I haven't even had a chance to read it, but I already forwarded it on to Cheney. Because I'm just like, you think it's going to be an economic boom that you're selling the people, but research has already been done. There's already a report out that says it's a dud.
Big oof.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Is there anything that you ladies want to say before we?
Oh, we didn't even get started on anything I got. So maybe you want to take a 5-minute break and we'll come back to you.
We're ready. We can keep it going. Let's get started.
Can we have a small break?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll get with you in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's fair.
Do you have a restroom?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
that is
Right back.
definitely.